Hey everybody, it's Rob here. Mythic items are the most powerful gear you can get in Diablo 4. Or at least that's the idea. While some of them, like Starless Sky, dominate the game, others completely lag behind and basically just collect dust. So today I would like to share some of my ideas with you to improve the weakest ones. Starting all the way at the bottom at the tier list that I made based on my opinion with practically no use in any serious build that needs significant improvement. I have 3 of them in the list right here. And if you go in game, this is the Shattered Vow, it's the Nesacum, this is a Spiritborn unique, yes it exists. And there is one more that is the Aharian Spear of Lycander. All 3 of them are extremely weak and basically never see any play in any serious build and frankly don't deserve the title Mythic Unique. So I want to talk about all of them real quick and tell you what the problem is. So Shattered Vow is a 2-handed weapon here that's competing with the Grandfather, another unique that we'll talk about later. And this is a 2-handed weapon based on dot effects. But the only problem is a 2-handed weapon, especially if you want to play this on a Spiritborn, this is taking away basically all the weapon slots on a class like a Spiritborn, and it frankly doesn't add really any offensive benefits in comparison to what else you can get, also if you consider the tempers. So I would like to see this getting like some cool effect. They could stick true to the, damage over time idea, like when basically whenever you inflict more damage over time than the remaining life, the enemy gets executed. And I think they can double down this effect. And then when the enemy gets executed by this dot effect, I feel like something significant should happen. Either if they want to go the lazy way, they can just give it like a double or triple damage multiplier for all the dots, or they could do like an on-death effect. So once this execution happens, maybe the enemy explodes for like, all of the damage that has been done as a dot or something in an AoE explosion. So that could be pretty cool. And just overall, this needs to pack like way more offensive capabilities here. The idea that you get Berserking on Lucky Hit is kind of cool for a class that are not Barbarian, but I still feel like this needs some offensive juice just for the damage over time effects. Next here we have the Spiritborn weapon, the Nesacum the Herald, and this has been, as far as I played the expansion and Spiritborn a lot in Season 6, I've never played this weapon. It has always come short to either the Rod of Kek W, the Rod of Kepeleke, if you're playing a core skill build, or some 2-handed weapons with redirected force, and also with some of the strong tempers that you have available here. If you're playing a Spiritborn, like you can get like double damage or double potency of your Spirit Halls and stuff. And just getting 2 seconds, getting a guaranteed vulnerable, a guaranteed crit, and a guaranteed overpower. Especially the crit part is pretty weak. Nowadays we have other items like Starless Sky where we just don't need crit chance. So I think this is like very similar. This is a 200 weapon. It needs to be buffed like crazy and needs to be stronger than, a normal unique. And maybe they can bring back some of the old stuff that they had. There was a data mine here that was done by Wowhead initially in like the very early version of the test builds. And you can see here kind of how it used to look back in the day. It gave you ranks to Apex and Diminishment, which are basically like generic skills, and it gave you plus 10 to all skills. Now, plus 10 might be a bit too powerful, but comparing it to some of the other 200 weapons, you get like triple damage on those as well. And plus 10 skills is basically a more creative way to give you damage and also to buff this stuff. I think it would be cool if they can return, at least to some degree, to some of the former glory or to the idea of this weapon. You could masterwork this to like plus 20 all skills or something, so they could balance it, maybe make it like, plus 6, plus 7 to all skills. But comparing this to the actual weapon that we have here at the moment is kind of a complete joke. So I think there needs to be a lot done to make this viable. And I think staying true to what apparently they originally had planned for this weapon, giving like basically a big amount plus to all skills, that would be pretty cool to see make a comeback. And by the way, I will also send this feedback to the developers, and you can also let me know your opinions below, what you think about these suggested changes, or maybe you have better ideas of changing some of these. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of, like creative freedom of what people can come up with. I just always try to keep it a bit realistic, like make simple stuff work, which doesn't require, you know, like a crazy amount of developer hours or time or budget money in that case. And then the third weapon I want to talk about, also basically never played in any build, is the Aharian Spear of Lycander. Now this can only drop for Sorcerer and Druid at the moment. And while the main stats are pretty decent, you get like percent all stats, it's pretty unique, it's a pretty cool effect. The secondary effect lags behind. And again, this is a two-handed weapon. Like if you want to play this on a Sorc or on a Druid, you're basically giving up a double potency offensive slot. You're giving up, you know, the GG tempers, you're giving up a ton of, you know, life, a ton of stats in general. And you only get some stats, some movement speed and some res. And then the effect is like, yeah, it's kind of okay, but it doesn't really provide you with anything offensive here. So I feel what they can do here is they can also add, like, I feel like either like a damage multiplier, maybe also like a movement speed bonus directly to the secondary. So my idea would be they could have like a significant offensive bonus and like 100% extra damage multiplier or something similar, plus 50% movement speed while you have a shrine active. This would like fit very well into the narrative. And maybe also they can add back the unique stats with a shrine duration that we had before on amulets. I think this would make the item pretty special and would keep, you know, the effect of having a shrine. So you have a shrine, you gain a random shrine, or even any shrine, you get double damage, you get 50% movement speed. And then also, instead of the movement speed percent roll, they could add something like shrine buff duration that you can then masterwork to make it, you know, a unique and also a viable offensive / utility option for the Sorcerer and the Druid. I would like that very much. And that pretty much concludes my F tier, the items that at the moment have no use. Going one up here is the C tier. This is like a niche use, especially in hardcore. Like these often are very defensive items, and there's definitely, you know, some decent stuff here that you can do with these. But overall, they are not really used that much, and these are these three items here: Melted Heart of Selig, Turael's Might, and Andariel's Visage, basically. So starting off here with Andariel's, I feel this is a very niche item, and I don't quite understand why it even drops on classes like Necromancer or Barbarian, or even to some degree Sorcerer, because we don't really scale any poison damage. So I think the item has a niche, decent use, you know, for classes that can scale poison, because it triggers like a lot of poison, also some attack speed, which is pretty cool. So what I would like to see here, and it's just a suggestion, maybe they could remove this from the loot table of Barb, Necro, and Sorc. And this would kind of even the field, because, you know, Barbarian and Necromancer have one extra item with the Grandfather anyways, you know, that, for example, the Rogue doesn't have. So inherently, Barb and Necro have like one extra, or at least Barb has one extra item. So I could feel they could remove the Andariel's Visage from the loot table, because it does not feel good if you find a helm on a Barb or on a Necro or even on a Sorc, and you really are hunting for some of the S tier for Heir of Shaco, and then you get an Andariel's. Like, it always feels bad, and it's just another spark, you know. So I would feel it would be kind of cool to to restrict this Andariel's Visage item and you know, remove it from the drop table, at least from Barb and Necro, I feel, and potentially even Sorc. That would make it, I think, decent enough for the other builds, and would definitely like be appreciated by a lot of the player base. Next here we have the Melted Heart of Selig. So this is like a super defensive item, and this is the amulet slot though. So this is played on hardcore, but the problem is, like, the amulet slot is usually one of the prime offensive slots, where you have 50% potency for the legendary aspect. You have, you know, like counter offensive or some malice on a necromancer, on a demon hunter and stuff like that. That you have like very strong class passives here that give you a ton of DPS. So I feel they could, you know, double down on this resource part. In fact, in the past, we had the Melted Heart of Selig. This is like when the game came out. We had the Melted Heart of Selig actually giving % resources rather than, you know, plus resources. So instead of 60 maximum resource, it could give, you know, like 60% or 80% maximum resource, or even double your current resources, right? So if you already have a pool of let's say 200 resources, it would go to 400 resources. And then suddenly you have some pretty cool scalers, either with the new boss powers, you can scale it with Ramalavis, and there are a ton of other things like Necromancer, for example. There's key passives that scale with your max resource. I feel almost every class has some good way. On a Demon Hunter, Rogue, you have the Beastfall boots. So there's like ways to scale maximum resource, I think almost on every class. So this could kind of be like, stick true to the identity of the Melted Heart of Selig, but make it more useful by giving % rather than plus resources. For some more offensive as well as defensive capabilities. I'd like that very much. And then Tyrael's Might is an item that I really liked a lot in the past. It has fallen off a bit. It's still super niche use, and you pretty much only want to play this early on or in hardcore, but I feel it's a very good item for casual, for beginning players. If you find this one, you basically fix all the problems. You get max movement speed, you get max resources, you get even more maximum resources, and you get a ton of damage reduction. And I actually really like the unique effect. Or at least used to like it, with effects like Whirlwind or Dance of Knives and stuff like that. However, they have fixed the way how frequently you can trigger it. So I feel what could be done here is improve the secondary effect, like this 800 damage. I feel that could be like at least doubled or tripled to make some better DPS proc that you can maybe even make some parts of a build around, where actually like you're triggering your Tyrael's Might a lot more frequently. And at least now that Torment 4 is so difficult, I feel like this should be buffed to at least be somewhat viable in Torment 4, because at the point where you're already having Mythic Uniques, you're like expected to be, or at least like should be like close to Torment 4. And I think Tyrael's Might would be a great item if you could just like add a bit more offensive. So I don't know, double or triple the secondary, I think would be pretty cool to have on the Tyrael's Might. Now we're going up the tiers. Now we have B tier, and I feel these are decent overall, especially on overpower builds and builds in hardcore. So this is the Grandfather and the Doombringer in this category. It's also somewhat niche, but I feel like these are a significant improvement over like Endariel's or Melted Heart. So I have these like in the second highest tier, like Grandfather, especially if you're playing like, I don't know, Mighty Throw or even on Necromancer with overpower builds. They have their use case. They also give maximum resources, doubles your crit damage. So this is a very nice weapon. They could buff it a little bit, to make it more in line and more of an alternative to some of the other slots that you have, especially on the Necromancer. But overall, I think the Grandfather is in an okay spot. Same goes for the Doombringer. This one gives you a ton of life. And again, if you're doing overpower builds with the orange numbers, you're scaling very well with the, like life percent is basically a multiplier. And it's pretty cool. What I would just like here is also a bit of a DPS upgrade on the secondary. And they could maybe do this on Endariel as well. Like you see here, it's 26,000. And I feel the Doombringer here with 3,800 could be a bit improved. So because this shadow damage basically feels useless at the moment. But it's a very defensive item, so it still has use cases. So these are actually okay. They could be buffed, but I don't think they have to. And then coming in S tier, this is like best in slot items in many builds. This is Ring of the Starless Sky, Harlequin's Quest, aka Shaco, Air of Perdition, and the Shroud of False Death. It's these 4 items here. And all of them are insanely good, and I don't think they need any change. I don't want to call like for nerfs, so I would rather, see them, like buff the weak Mythic Uniques up to like at least like a decent level where it can at least be played like in niche builds. I feel, if you have a damage over time build, you should have a big incentive to play, the Mythic Shattered Vow in your damage over time build, because it's a Mythic revolving around, damage over time. And right now you just never do it, because like there's Grandfather, it's just way better, or you just like, play any of the other awesome weapons that you can then masterwork and stuff. But you don't have this problem here in S tier. Shroud of the False Death is insane, 1-to-all passives, really cool items. Same for the Air of Perdition. This actually causes a bit of problems because the Helm slot with Harlequin's Crest and Air of Perdition is so strong that some of the new builds, for example, if you're looking at the Meteor Sork or if you're looking at the freshly buffed Ice Shard Sork, they're having a hard time because their new uniques is always on the helm slot. So if you want to play the new Ice Shard helm, the Ale of Verglas, or even the Meteor helm, you can't really do this without losing big DPS, because it's already competing with an item that gives you like a crazy amount of cooldown plus 4 to all skills, or it's competing with an item that gives you a bunch of core skills plus 60x multiplicative damage. So we have a bit of a helm problem, I feel, as long as these two items are like they are right now. So I'm not saying like they should nerf them. Maybe they should not do all of these new uniques on the helm slot, because in the end it always falls short, or should even fall short, versus some of those mythic uniques. And it's kind of weird, like if the best way to play an ice shard build is not using the specifically designed ice shard unique helm, you know. So yeah, these are pretty strong and very competitive and best in slot. And I think Starless Sky is, I would even give this the most useful item right now, just because the secondary, it's so insane. The high crit chance, the high attack speed, high core skills. I think it's a very well-rounded item here with Starless Sky, and useful in almost any build, basically, and really a big quality of life. And I think a pretty good item of what Mythic Unique should be. Same for the Shroud of the False Death. So I really like these. And that basically concludes the tier list here. So again, I definitely think in the F tier, like if the Mythic Unique has practically no use in any real, in any serious build, they need improvement. And even C tier could be buffed, in my opinion, with the stuff that I suggested. So again, let me know what you think down below. Season 8 starts in about a month, so there's still a lot of time for Blizzard to cook. They need to cook on the boss powers, they need to cook on certainly a lot of stuff, as well as class balance. And we will see what happens. I'll keep giving feedback and make some feedback videos here, and then also have a tier list and a ton of Season 8 build once we know the final patch notes. And also next month, guys, they are scheduled to release a full roadmap for Diablo 4. So we will know what's coming basically for the entire year. And who knows, maybe we'll even get to hear something about the Paladin expansion. Hope you, fingers crossed, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you soon. Take care, my friends. GG. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.